the Cenobite storyteller slasher Poe. I would like to say thank you for joining us. Please press the share, as well as send an invitation to another fellow creepypasta as well as horror enthusiast. The first Cenobite story I am going to tell you is entitled The Ways of the Butcher. The imposters began to tremble and sweat profusely. The reputation of the Butcher Man was legendary. 6 of the hooded men with cleavers' eyes fell upon the Butcher. He entered the room breathing heavily, splattered with blood, his cleaver shining brighter than the rest in the room. His blood-soaked hood and gigantic frame made him intimidating to the rest. One of the hooded men began to speak. "We are the butchers of the lost," he said with a quivering voice. Without warning, the 6 hooded men drew their cleavers and began to circle the Butcher Man. The blood-soaked hood of the Butcher Man began to twitch, his shoulders raising with every breath. In an instant, the 6 men pounced on the Butcher Man, violently swinging their hatchets. A screaming mist began to swirl around the Butcher Man, protecting the blows, befuddling the other hooded men with the eerie smoke swirling around the blood-soaked Butcher Man. They began to swing wildly into the smoke, trying to connect with their blades. The Butcher Man began to roar from the bottom of his stomach. He pulled a large rusted cleaver from his butcher's belt. The smoke began to swirl furiously, blinding the other 6 men. With one swipe in a circular motion from front to back, he decapitated all 6 imposters with his rusty blade. The smoke dissipated, and a calm filled the blood-soaked room. The Butcher Man gathered the 6 decapitated heads and raised his fist in triumph. Often imitated, the ways of the Butcher was learned. Thank you, and once again, I am the Cenobite storyteller slasher Poe. These are my stories to tell. Gather round. I hope you have been enjoying your October season, and hopefully you had fun watching me carve my homemade pumpkin. This next Cenobite story is entitled Dead Butterflies. Dragging the lifeless corpse of Jennifer Tate by a hook in her mouth, Big Grim Tim heard the faint melodies of demons singing in his mind. This was his day of reckoning. Yanking and pulling the corpse of his high school sweetheart in a brutal fashion to her final resting place, he began to relive the memories of when Jennifer would talk to him in public. After his brain injury, he began to claim to hear voices and feel electrical currents running through his body. With his brain injury as well as the kids picking on him at school, he began to let his appearance go. His big yellow teeth and black frizzy hair began to stand out more each day. When he would arrive at school, Tim would sit in the bathroom stall just to avoid his classmates. They would always make fun of him, laughing, making fun of his teeth and hair. They would circle him like a pack of hyenas, heckling to one another. "He must have ate a pound of butter," Cindy James remarked, yelling into the face of the towering giant. Sean Meadows, the high school quarterback, pushed Tim from the back, making him lose his balance and smacking his head into a water fountain. A flashing jolt of electricity went through his body. He began to shake uncontrollably. Slowly clenching his locker, rising to his feet, the crowd suddenly began to step back as a blue flame evolved from his body, incinerating Sean Meadows. Only Sean's retainer from his teeth was left on a pile of ash. Cindy James and the rest of Beaumont High began to flee. Screaming in a panic, the senior class of '86 sprinted for the closest exit. In a controlled fit of rage, Grim Tim muttered under his breath, and with that, a blue flame formed around his head, sprouting a dark top hat. With another faint whisper, a greenish blur glowed from Grim Tim's hands, and a jagged emerald hook emerged from his smoky palms. He swung his hook like a blade from a ceiling fan, hitting Cindy James in the chest. She began to cry in pain and kick as she was lifted off of her feet. With a faint whisper, Tim's yellow teeth began to sprout and even larger, as well as the shape of his jaw and mouth. It grew open larger, stretching open to the size of a basketball. Like a human kebab, Grim Tim placed the head of Cindy James in his mouth and bit down like a crocodile. Blood gushed from the jaws of Tim, and the gurgling sound was sweet music to his ears. In a state of shock, some of the students stopped and stared in disbelief at what they were watching. Grim Tim let the lifeless corpse of Cindy hit the floor. He flew forward with a burst of light, sticking 3 more students on his hook and flying off to his murder room. With a loud thud, they crashed through the side of the wall into the abandoned building. He wanted peace and quiet, and time alone with these special 3 students. Dusting off his top hat, he looked over at the 3 students he knew well. Rufio Mendoza was his tormentor from kindergarten. He had his eye on him for many years, plotting his demise. Mallory Pliskin tormented Grim Tim day in and day out for over 3 years. Last but not least, the girl that captivated his attention, the one that gave him butterflies. Jennifer Tate was the only girl in school to say hi to Grim Tim. As the 3 classmates were breathing heavily with the puncture wounds in their chests, they had to fathom what was about to happen. Rufio yelled out, "You freak! I'm going to kill you!" Staggering to his feet, Rufio lunged for Grim Tim's hook, and in a blink of an eye, green smoke emerged around the head and face of Rufio. Suffocating him, his eyes bulged and his tongue began to protrude through his teeth. Rufio was frozen and could not move. The green energy was unbreakable. Grim Tim began to circle around the helpless Rufio. With a fast jolt, the hook entered Rufio's stomach, lodging into his large and small intestines. Grim Tim became engulfed once again in the blue flame, and pulled the hook straight out, bringing blood and intestines from the corpse of Rufio. He fell to the floor dead as a doornail. He glanced over to Mallory Pliskin and laughed a sinister chuckle. He began to mock Mallory, puckering his duck lips with a pile of intestines in his hand. Grim Tim replied, "This would make a great picture on my wall." Jennifer Tate covered her face and tried to regain her breathing from the large wound in her chest. With a burst of energy, Mallory tried to escape the abandoned building by jumping from a nearby window. Halfway out of the window, Big Grim Tim threw his top hat that mutated into a glowing guillotine. Her torso was ripped in half by the large blade, protruding on the brim of his hat. The top part of the shoulders bent back and her head touched her ankles. With a burst of laughter, Grim Tim shouted, "Don't get bent out of shape." He kneeled down, dripping 2 fingers into the pool of blood. He tasted the taste of satisfaction. The blue flame surrounding his body began to change colors. It was now a bright red with a black aura. The butterflies were gone and only malice remained. Jennifer Tate glanced up to see Grim Tim surrounded by the red flame, gazing with his big yellow eyes. He whispered for her to take his hand. He raised his hook for her taking. She began to cough up blood and hold her wound tightly. She slowly lifted her hand to take his hook. In a flash, Grim Tim spun around and caught her in the face with his jagged emerald hook. "You're the catch of the day," he said in a deep, low voice. He had a special place for her. He began yanking her by the face into the cellar of the abandoned building. There he would cast an incantation that would transfer Jennifer's soul into Grim Tim's black jar. He recited the ancient words, and a spirit-like force was emerging from her chest. Grim Tim became filled with joy, the flames changing color surrounding his body. He opened his black glass jar, and the energy from Jennifer's chest filled the glass encasement. Big Grim Tim closed it tightly, and with that, he threw the jar into the air, opened up his wide jaws and snarling yellow teeth, and consumed his dead butterfly. Once again, I am the Cenobite storyteller Slasher Poe. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, Backwoods Butcher's Chop Block TV, please subscribe today and make sure to add Hell-Raising Horror on Facebook. I am the one and only Cenobite storyteller. I hope you have enjoyed our sessions tonight. Feel free to add me on Amino's Creepypasta application on the Google App Store. I will be publishing my first book entitled The Cenobite Stories by Slasher Poe. It should be published by next year. I hope you all get a copy and enjoy my Cenobite stories. From everybody here at Backwoods Butcher Chop Block TV and ButcherMedia.com, as well as Hell-Raising Horror, I bid you adieu. Farewell, and into the flames we go.